Now welcome to another Let's Talk Some Star Wars, where this time we'll be taking a look at and discussing the results of the poll that asked, what did you think of the third story arc of Andor Season 2, or Episodes 7, 8, and 9? I'll also then be reading and responding to some of the comments left on the poll, and there were a ton of them. There were a ton of really good ones, so let's get right to the results so we can get to those comments. And we'll see that 88% of voters said these episodes were fantastic. 7% said they were pretty good, 3% said they were okay or average or kind of mid, and then there was a final 3% who said they were pretty bad, or in other words, did not watch these episodes. I'm kidding, but not really. I'm not kidding. I don't know how there's any way you could watch these episodes and think they were bad. I mean, maybe you didn't thoroughly enjoy them for some reason and you thought they were kind of mid or just pretty good, or maybe you thought they were fantastic, or maybe you thought they belong in a category above fantastic because, in my opinion, this is some of the best Star Wars or some of the best entertainment I have ever seen. But honestly, I really can't understand how somebody could label these as bad, and I know it's subjective. You don't have to like it, but come on. That was some pretty good Star Wars right there. Anyway, when we very quickly compare these results to the results for the previous two story arcs, we'll see that, no surprise, this is by far the highest rated of the three, and I don't think that's saying anything bad against the other two. They were also very, very good or excellent. I think it is simply saying just again how good this story arc was, and I think the big question going into the finale is, how do you not necessarily top this? I don't think you have to top this. But how do you end this now in a way that is comparable to this story arc? Because it was that good. And I'm not complaining. I'm not saying if the final arc isn't quite as good as this that I'm going to be let down. That's not what I'm saying at all. I'm just saying you brought everybody to a whole other level, and it's going to be hard to kind of keep that momentum, I think. I don't know. Maybe not. I don't know why I am doubting Tony Gilroy and everybody else who was involved in this show. I think the final arc is going to be fantastic. I just don't know how you kind of replicate this again or pull something like this off again, because it was just that good. All right, let's move on to some comments now, but not before. Once again, I just got to say thank you to everybody who votes or comments or watches these or any of my videos across both channels, and a huge, huge thank you to everyone who supports me on Patreon, who chats in my Discord and makes that a fantastic place to talk some Star Wars. And now, as always, we kick it off with the top-rated comment, and I'm going to try not to ramble too much again. I want to read as many comments as I can here. There were a lot of really good ones, but the top one came to us from Jack Barnes, who said, "A masterclass in storytelling. Haven't felt such a roller coaster of emotions while watching a series in a very long time. My only regret is when this season is done. I don't know if we'll ever again see Star Wars rise even close to this quality." And the fact that this is indeed the top-rated comment leads me to believe that a lot of people are kind of left wondering right now, a lot of fans are left wondering, is this as good as it's ever gonna be again? Are we ever gonna get anything quite this good? And I think we will. And I'm not just saying that to be positive or optimistic. I think we will absolutely someday, somehow get some great Star Wars again. Maybe soon, maybe not so soon. We'll see. But I do think, yes, someday we're going to get some really excellent, phenomenal, exceptional Star Wars again. But I don't know that it's ever quite like this, quite written this well. I think this is some of the finest writing I have ever seen, be it movie, television series, anywhere. And I'm not just saying that because I love the show and I'm a big fan and all that. I'm trying to say that from a very objective standpoint, from someone who has, yes, for better or worse, watched a lot of movies and watched a lot of television in their life and played a lot of video games and just has engrossed themselves in entertainment and story. I honestly can't think of too many shows that have ever just captured me the way this show has. And even if it wasn't Star Wars, which some people will say is me kind of admitting that this isn't a good Star Wars show, it's just good and the fact that it's Star Wars doesn't matter. But even if this wasn't Star Wars, I would watch this and I would be captivated. I would be enthralled by this. This is just, again, some of the best writing we're going to see. And sadly, no, we may never see something quite like this again in Star Wars. And one of the reasons why I have been or will talk about the numbers, the viewership numbers, and I know a lot of people say, I don't care about the viewership numbers. But if you really love Andor, maybe you should kind of care or be interested, because if this isn't successful, if it doesn't bring in those numbers, we won't ever see anything like this ever again. But if it is a massive success, they might try to do something like this again, which could be a bad thing because they'll probably bring in the wrong guy or wrong woman to write and direct and all that. And so I say just buckle up and enjoy it right now. Buckle up and enjoy the final story arc next week, because that might be, again, the last time we see something quite like this out of Star Wars. All right, let's move on now to this one from Thomas Marambio, who said, "The hotel receptionist is more interesting of a character than any of those introduced in the sequels." And I don't read this comment to crap on the sequels. Honestly, about the last thing I want to talk about after seeing this latest story arc is the sequels. I bring it up because every character in Andor feels like a character. Everyone is well crafted and well handled. It doesn't matter if they are on the screen for 2 minutes or consistently across 2 seasons. They all feel like thought was put into their creation. There are no background or side characters. There are only characters, and some just happen to get more time and have their stories explored more. Everybody you meet, everybody you run into, everybody you even see in the background just feels like a real person. And we are getting a glimpse into their lives. We get to empathize with them. We get to feel what they feel. We get to go on these stories and these adventures with them. And that is why the show works so well. It is that human connection. We understand them. We fear for them. We root against them. And that is what makes the show so good. And when things like the 8th episode here happen, when a powder keg explodes, we are there with them. We are experiencing this terrible occurrence with them. And it is just a testament to the writing, the acting, and everything else that has been put into this series. Okay, and next up here we have a comment from PBH, who said, "This is honestly the most masterfully made sequence of television I've ever seen. From the Gorman anthem, the massacre sequence, Cyril's final moment, Mon Mothma's speech, to the final Bix scene. I'm still dumbfounded that just a year ago we had Acolyte, a show that promised dark, morally ambiguous, but fails to commit to even basic rules of storytelling. How on earth this show could be so well made, yet so many others feel mediocre? I'm not saying every show needs to resemble Andor, but all I'm asking for is more effort being made with their writing and characters. Shows that actually commit to its premise and not subversive for the sake of it." And I could not agree more. Not every show needs to be Andor, though if it were, I probably would be okay with that, but maybe not. I'd probably not get sick of Andor quality of shows, but I would probably want other things out of Star Wars from time to time, or most of the time even. I'm fine with different things. I praise the hell out of Andor because, yes, I think it is phenomenal, and I really, really enjoy it. But no, not everything needs to be Andor in Star Wars. But it does need to have the same level of care put into it that Andor, that Tony Gilroy and company have put into their show. That really is the key. I mean, just look at Skeleton Crew, another show I have praised. I'm not saying it's as good as Andor, but it is in a different category than Andor. It is a more family-friendly show than Andor, and for what it is, I think it is very good. And that's because you do feel like a lot of care and concern and thought and effort went into the creation of the show. That's what people are asking for. They're not asking for everything to be Andor. They're asking everything to be treated the same way Andor is in terms of how much love, passion, and just talent. I think talent has a lot to do with it too, don't get me wrong. But all of this stuff needs to be poured into Star Wars. You can't treat it like some kind of assembly line, like you're just shipping things out of a factory because you want to profit off of this franchise, which is what it feels like Disney is all too often trying to do. They're just manufacturing content for us to consume, not crafting art for us to enjoy. Okay, and moving on now, we have a comment from The Frozen One, who said, "Tony Gilroy is more than just a phenomenal writer, he gets Star Wars. The most wonderful thing about this arc to me was the return of spirituality and the conflict of choice versus destiny to the franchise. The Force Healer's words about how Cassian is not just carrying, but gathering the weight of his experiences for the greater purpose of being a messenger just broke me. The conflict of Cassian's repeated verbal desire to make his own choices harkens back to the struggles of Anakin and Luke with their own destinies, and the way Bix instantly accepts it as if it is something she's always known about Cassian and acts on her faith in him and his destiny in the Force is beautiful. This is mind-blowing Star Wars." And I was very pleasantly surprised. It was a surprise to be sure, but a welcome one when they sort of incorporated what you're talking about here. Some Force elements, some destiny versus choice, the things that kind of make Star Wars what a lot of people would argue it is. I've always said that at the core of Star Wars are choices. It is about the choices we make and the consequences that follow. And at first, I'll admit, when I saw the Force Healer, I'm like, oh, this kind of feels a little clunky. I'm not sure about this. I'm not saying that you couldn't bring her in because obviously this is Star Wars. The Force is there. There's going to be Force charlatans or whatever she turned out to be. But it kind of felt awkward, it kind of felt clunky, but by the end I was kind of blown away by how well they handled it. It was subtle and it was perfect. It was Cassian essentially being forced to fulfill his destiny by the person who loved him the most, the person he would have given anything for. Again, it does harken back to, say, Anakin. How he made the choice to save the one he loved over perhaps saving the galaxy or destroying Sidious and the Sith. He made the wrong choice, and in a manner of speaking, Cassian was also going to make the wrong choice for the galaxy, but the right choice for himself and Bix, probably. They probably get to go off and, at least for a little while until the Empire finds them or takes their planet or whatever might happen. But together they probably get to live a nice, peaceful little life. But that choice is taken away from Cassian. Bix believed in his destiny even if he didn't, and she forced him down that path, and, well, we know how it's all going to end, and it feels so tragic at the end of that 9th episode. Because Bix made the right choice, yet the wrong choice at the same time. We know Cassian is going to die, but he's going to save the rebellion or save the galaxy or play a very huge part in that, obviously by stealing the Death Star plans. And so you're conflicted. You're happy that the right choice was made, but you're so bitterly sad at the same time. All right, now we move on to this comment from Nazardine, who said, "These episodes were exceptional. I felt so many emotions, and I love the fact that this leads directly into scenes from Rebels. These two shows could not be further apart from one another in terms of tone." I agree with that. "Yet they coexist beautifully and complement each other. This let me wonder how awesome it would be if every other part of Disney Star Wars canon were this intertwined, connected, and coherent." And I agree, I thought they handled the Rebels thing. The fact that, if you don't know, in Rebels we see Mon Mothma after the escape, after she has made her speech in the Senate, and she gives another speech, and the Rebels crew, the Ghost crew, they kind of escort her to Yavin and all these sorts of things. But I thought that was handled extremely well, and what was impressive is the number of times I had heard Tony Gilroy in an interview talking about Mon Mothma and the Gorman Massacre, and he's like, there's a timeline we have to follow, we have constraints we have to adhere to, and it's kind of weird that the guy who so many are like, he didn't like Star Wars going into it, and he has said he wasn't the biggest fan, but the guy you would almost expect to not care about the lore seemed to care about it more than others who claim to be massive Star Wars fans and to love the lore and to know it like the back of their hand. I don't know, I'm not saying everything needs to be flawless when it comes to canon and consistency, but there does need to be a level of care and concern when you're trying to fit stories together, especially stories that really directly relate to each other, like that Rebels episode relates to this. I mean, it's one after the other, and it's handled so well, and you're left wondering why they can't seem to do this more often. All right, and moving on, we have a comment here from Francisco Javier, who said, "They were absolute cinema. This was television at its finest. I don't remember the last time I was on the edge of my seat watching something. Everything worked how it should have, and this is already enough to watch Rogue One in a different way. I can't imagine how the sadly final episode will do that even more. Star Wars best trilogy, Andor Season 1, Andor Season 2, and Rogue One." And I agree, I think Rogue One is already going to feel different. I haven't watched it yet, I won't watch it till after the whole season is done here. But I do think it is going to feel recontextualized, and Tony Gilroy even said you're going to watch it differently, it's going to feel differently. And I think one of the things that's going to feel different is this sense of looming dread over it now. And I've seen Rogue One, I don't know, a half dozen times, maybe a few more, and I'm never, like, sad at the end of the movie. I mean, yeah, I'm sad to a degree for them, but this time I'm going to watch it knowing everything that Cassian has been through, knowing that Bix is out there. And there is going to be this sense of dread. There is going to be this part of me that, like, somehow, someway hopes he doesn't die at the end, that it's going to be different this time. And so everybody who said, once upon a time, why do Andor, why do Cassian's backstory? And, well, I'd say this is why you do it, because you somehow made Rogue One arguably the best Disney Star Wars movie to date. You made it even better by taking these characters that so many people said you didn't care about, you didn't want to see his backstory, and you made him maybe one of the top characters in the franchise, or at least in the Disney era, probably the top character of the Disney era overall, though I think some other characters from Andor would have something to say about that too. But yeah, Rogue One is going to feel different. I can't wait to watch it, and yes, I will do a video upon rewatching it. Alright, and one final comment before wrapping it up, and it comes to us from Edward Klein, who said, "It's been so nice to see Andor discourse online, people theorizing over and enjoying the show, all the praise and positivity. I can't remember the last time the online discourse was so positive and engaging for Star Wars. It's nice." And even though, yes, there is some negativity out there directed towards Andor, which is fine. If you don't like the show, you want to knock it, you're free to do that if you want. But there has been a lot of positivity towards it. There have been a lot of people just loving it and enjoying it and theorizing it and just kind of wanting to share it. And I can't help but think of that quote about how no one hates Star Wars like Star Wars fans, that very kind of famous quote these days. And there is a degree of truth to that because, yeah, nobody can hate on Star Wars when it's bad like Star Wars fans can. Surprise, surprise. But at the same time, when it's good, when the love is put into it that has been put into Andor, we are going to show that love. We are going to be passionate Star Wars fans both ways. When it's bad, yeah, expect us to maybe sometimes get a little out of hand. But when it's good, expect us to maybe sometimes get a little out of hand as well. That's what a fan is. They're fanatic. They're excited. And yeah, sometimes we are going to go too far, or some fans are going to go too far and say really bad things. But sometimes we're going to get some great Star Wars and we're just going to love it. And that's, again, what I suggest doing with this final 3 episodes next week. Sit back and enjoy because who knows when it's going to be this good again. Well, that is going to be all I got for you this time. Now it is your turn to take to the comments below and tell me what you thought of these 3 episodes of Andor, this third story arc, or third block, as Tony Gilroy calls them. Did you love it? Did you hate it somehow? Or what? Whatever the case may be, leave your comments below. Let's talk some Star Wars. And until next time, thanks for watching.